now you just got my whole philosophy of reading the card. Read the cards, or you try to internalize some of the ideas that come at you that precisely have the potential to destabilize completely your habitual patterns of thinking, then you see the value in that.
Let's say that I'm a young woman who isn't at that point in life yet where she's totally zen, where she can let go of identity. She's not looking super clearly. She's like 25 years old. She's starting a corporate job. She's starting to date. And she's turning to the tarot because she's trying to figure out her life.
Mm-hmm. Well, the first thing to do is that you need to ponder on the context of your situation. Okay. And try to concretize that context to something that can be formulated into a concise, coherent, and concrete question.
Okay, let's say that I have a career question. Let's say that I'm wondering whether or not I should change jobs. And I want to move to someplace else, but I'm afraid that I'm not going to be able to get a new job. The economy's not that great. My parents are telling me, oh, you should stay at your job because it's safe. So when you say context and you make it into a concrete question, what do you mean?
Well, what I mean is also, say, you can start out the way I hear you talk about it. You're already introducing a whole bunch of projections. Oh, I needed to change my career. But I'm not so sure about it. And if I do something else, how will that look like? So you are bringing to the table already, even before realizing it. That would be your unconscious speaking. You're bringing to the table a whole lot of anxiety. So we can, if you come to me with that question, then obviously, as I was saying, when I try to listen to what you're asking, I also try to detect, where your question comes from. What is it that informs it? And in this case here, I can hear it, and it's a classic, and I totally get it, I've been there myself, believe me. When I try to understand what is happening, I try to see what other variables are being put on my table that may or may not have to do with the concern at hand. So say, I need to change my job, and I want to learn about some strategies. So here what I do is I help people understand that the clearer they get to formulate what they want exactly and what they really want, sometimes that's not a given, then we can arrive at a precise answer. So say if I were to push people a little bit and say, okay, so what is your real concern here? And I say, well, I have this education and I've been doing this work and now I need to do something else and I'm really just not sure if I can hack it. Now, the whole context is informed by fear. Fear is never reality, So, I could instantly give everybody a pep talk or a one-on-one, Zen, one-on-one, no problem. But often I would hold that. So I just work with that premise and I look at, okay, so I hear that you are afraid. Because you're afraid, you want to maximize, let's use that word from the corporatist environment, how can you maximize your chances, to become successful in the new line of business or whatever it is. So I never dismiss that type of question simply because I already detect that at its premise, there is a whole lot of fiction, which is called, I'm just afraid. I suffer from anxiety. So, I let that in, and then there is the question, what do you really want to know? Well, I want to know how I can be successful at this next thing. So, okay, then we can look at what steps, you can take. So then I help people formulate questions, along these lines of what would be the most beneficial for me at the level of attitude, to embody. So, so I lay down the cards, and then I say, okay, so the cards here suggest. So that's a kind of like in between the type of reading that I say, either a reading that calls for a purely descriptive level, where we simply look at, okay, the situation is like this, and then we can describe it. No, so we have a situation where that is in place, but then there is another context that we can bring in that we identify with a more predictive world. We try to, based on the analysis of the situation, or let's say what the cards suggest at the analytical level, or we have to do that kind of decoding, because if we think a little bit, we encode what is happening right here and right now. Then based on that, you can begin to offer some proactive advice, and then you can begin to look at what cards may suggest, concretely what would be beneficial for this 25-year-old woman to embody at the level of attitude. Let me just draw cards at random. So here is the force, right? I work with these French cards from 1650. Jean Noblet designed this in Paris. So so this person, if this one pops in the reading, and then one could say, well, it's very clear that you're struggling with the situation. Here we have a woman trying to open the mouth of this lion, So if we just activate that first indexical level of recognition, what's happening here? It's very simple. A woman is she's fighting, or she's trying to force the mouth of this lion open, yeah? So there is some struggle in any way. So we would say, okay, so say this card comes in as in the spread, connected to the suggestion that we call for, regarding what is best to embody, what is most beneficial to embody. So if this one is part of the string of cards, I don't really do positional readings where in more standard tarot, in the Anglo-American community, this used to be a practice already since the 60s and early, actually, where you just did positional readings, where you lock cards in positions. It's like, this is me, and this is my enemy, and this is my mother, and this is my father, and this is your boss. It's kind of easy to relate to that. So in the practice that I use, or the method that I teach, is simply just lay down 3 cards and simply look at what emerges. If I were to give advice, I would say, well, what you need to embody is this kind of force, like you need to bear it. And you need to get ready to overcome situations where it is clear that you are not on the same page with other people. This is a human and this is an animal. So, even logically speaking, right, how are you going to get this animal to understand what you try to do? Ha, ha, ha. So, if this came as part of the reading, this card, the reading that calls for giving advice to what you can do so you can maximize your chances to be successful at this job, I would say, well, how about you get ready to bear it so that you can overcome, whatever it is, because it looks like, anyway, that you will be dealing with people who although you might be thinking, so then there is this other issue that some would say, yeah, but I'm the novice. I'm the one who doesn't get it. So maybe I am the lion. Maybe I'm not the boss. Maybe it's me who's the lion. That can also come up, But let's just assume that the woman here, she still has some force of her own, and we can identify that. And then we assign the higher human here, the strong, in size. We can assign this person to her and say, okay, this is you struggling with somebody who just doesn't get it. So I would say, okay, you walk into that new environment, your new job, and try to be attuned to the fact that for all your efforts, there will still be some moron there, or a beast, like the beast is right here, who will just not get it. And then the next question, of course, would be like, okay, if that is the situation, what can I do about that? How can I bypass the fact that for all my efforts, there will still be some who will resist me? Yeah. So of course you can go in, and depending on what other cards you get there, talk about that. As you can hear, it can be very concrete, and you can anchor reading like this in exactly in what you see. Very simple. In fact, I talked about the emperor. So if this one came up, so I would advise the woman and say, listen, so even though this is a new environment and you are a little afraid, how about you just walk in there, speaking of the symbolic, how about you walk in there, don the suit, and the gaze of the ruler, try and exude that kind of energy. Nobody messes with you. You know your shit about your own territory. This one can territorialize. This one has a plan. This one realizes the plan. This one goes for it. Yeah. So I said to the woman, you do that. You embody this figure. Now, in contrast, say she got something else. Maybe she got this one. Yeah, my favorite. This is my least favorite. That is the lovers. Yeah. So we see here a young man caught between these women. So in the context of work, I would simply, again, context rules all readings. I never read without a question. Depending on the context, if this one was about work and how you can hack it, I would say maybe you should be aware of gossip. Maybe you don't want to be so impressionable. Maybe you don't want to be open to what the person to the left says, what the person to the right says. Oh, this one says this and the other one says that, and then you sit there all the time and you're like completely unaware. It's like this anemic young man, who can never make up his own mind. On the other hand, of course, the opposite can also be true, where I could advise the woman, depending on what other cards she gets in the spread or the layout, I could also advise her, you know what, perhaps it's a good idea to listen to all parties. Don't make any decisions. Don't go with the first. How about you just try to be impartial?
Well, this is where I think a lot of people get very, very, very confused, because I think most people, they want the cards to mean the same thing in the same context, right? So you're basically saying that it's so unique on the situation, and that same lover's card could mean 5 different things, and with other cards it can mean totally different things.
You'll always have access to contextual markers. There will always be information in there that lead you into what you really want to know, and against the background of which you end up formulating your question. So and that is always the one thing that you must hold yourself against, because you will not have anything else. Well, yeah, you can have, random books that you can check with their list and say, oh, lovers love following your heart. I often get people who have some knowledge of the tarot, and then they come to me, and then they think they identified the lover, they pops in the spread, and if they don't know my style of reading, then they get so excited, like, oh, I got the lovers, oh, now I can get to do what I love, and it's love, and I'm like, get real. I mean, if you just get down to looking at this card, and then of course allowing for that which you see at the first order level of signification, just look at what the people on the cards on the card represented are doing. So you can see how awkward he is. One woman has her hand on his heart, no, come with me, and the other one has her hand on his shoulder, no, but you gotta listen to me. So if you start noticing to all of these things, you will see how you can instantly arrive at just what you need to know, because you will be able to relate all of these gestures, all of these stylized gestures, all of these stylized movements to what you are all about.
Sure, if I'm not emotionally involved in the situation, yes, I can lay down these cards and I can see them. But reality is that I'm not laying down cards because my life is great. I'm laying down cards because I need answers. I'm confused. I'm laying down these cards. Let's say I see the lovers. Does this mean the gossip? Does this mean I'm being torn between 2 things? How do I know what it means?
Well, you'll know it because you'll have a question. If you don't have a question, you can stare at the cards and just contemplate on the images. That you can also do. So again, the meaning only arises when there is a question on the table. And then you lay down 3 cards, and then you will instantly see that there is something there, that you will be able to relate. Perhaps in my ideal cartomantic world, you will be able to relate to whatever you go through in ways that are not habitual. Yeah. So the beauty of it is always comes in the way in which you are capable of combining contradictory ideas often. And if, mind you, in fact, the more we do this, the more we can align ourselves with the definition of a genius. I mean, a classical definition of a genius consists actually of people's ability to combine ideas. They have combinatorial ability. If you can do that in such a way so that all of a sudden a system arises, systems are fascinating, then you're a genius. I mean, if you ask me, the person who figured out that all our lives, no matter what we go through, can be reduced to 4 types, that we actually find in the playing card deck. Somebody was a genius to stylize all these events in life that we experience on a daily basis that can, in effect, be reduced to just 4 manifestations. With the cups you drink, with the coins you transact, with the batons you build, and with the swords you stab. So somebody, we don't know, because historically nobody knows what the playing card divination and association with so-called meanings came from. Nobody knows. We don't have any evidence for all that. But they are here. And we totally get that very commonsensical and basic meaning, to what they stand for, because the suits very actively embody these experiences that we are having, right? So they're not difficult to figure out. Now, once we're done with that, somebody again is somewhere in the 1500s, they decided, let's have some figureheads. There is a court here, and somebody rules, and somebody else wants to go to the mountain and be a monk, and the other people are traitors, and other people are, let's go to the spa where we can watch the naked ladies. So somebody had the brilliant idea to add on top of the 4 suits these other types that now also go by the name of the major arcana or the grand secrets, right? But as far as I'm concerned, these figures, they're just the figureheads, they're just the trumps, in a tarot pack. They just embody again that which we recognize culturally. So to make the point about the context, when you bring a question, you can follow the chain of the events that we can experience in different ways, all according to how we respond to these situations that can fall into these 4 categories.
What if you're an overthinker? What if you're not somebody who can just... I think a lot of people are like that, right? Overanalyze. I'm like that. I overanalyze everything, including the cards. Mm-hmm. So, what do you advise for people, the average person, I would say, who is going to overanalyze the cards, who's going to think of every single possibility, every single context, try to fit the story into that?
Well, what I say is that the one thing that saves you, and you'll find this in all the Buddhist discourse, you will find that the most useful is to actually advise people to pay attention. Just pay attention to where you are at right now. You can allow for a billion of analytical thoughts to overwhelm you, sometimes to give you enormous pleasure. Some of us love to suffer from, seeing one issue, 20,000 facets, worse than cutting a diamond, the brilliant diamond. So no problem, we can acknowledge that pleasure that we can derive even from going over and over and over, and, we can indulge our perfectionisms and all that. As long as you know that that is what you're doing, hooking yourself into these obsessive patterns, then you're safe. Recognize what is happening right now, accept it such as it is, and then maybe investigate with yourself. When you come to that point, if you can kick that awareness in and simply say, now, why am I clinging to this? So, the why is a very nasty kind of key to deconstructing your own spirituality.
Wow. Yeah. While you were talking, just randomly, like my hand just reached over, shuffled some tarot cards, and in my mind I asked, what do I need to do to stop over-analyzing when I'm reading cards?
Okay.
Hangman, reverse.
Oh, are you using reverse? Oh, drop that.
Okay.
Yeah, drop that. Who the fuck needs reversals?
All right,
you don't need reversals. all that reversals idea is already inherent in the cards, you know. Okay.
Nice.
Yeah.
King of
Let's
Swords.
do the Hangman in his, yeah. What's the next?
King of Swords.
I don't know.
And then
King of
last, 8 of Coins.
How can I stop overthinking? How about the Hangman describing already the very situation of what happens when you overthink? That you are always somehow suspended between meanings. Oh, this and that. I need to think some more about this. Yeah, I need to think some more. I'm suspended between realities. I'm suspended between meanings. I'm suspended between. I just, you know, go a little like this. You know, I don't even have any agency. I wonder who hanged me up there, you know. We can also put it that way. So you feel a little powerless. That's why I asked, what is the function of the hangman? He has no agency. He's in a position of complete powerlessness. So when we talk about the context of people overthinking, isn't it so that what informs overthinking is ultimately this power, this feeling of powerlessness? I never really give my narrative a lift off because I never get there, because I am always stuck here, suspended between meanings. I'm always suspended here over my own analytical processes. There is nothing that can drive my narrative forward. So, you know, the hangman here just describes your situation of being in that state, overthinking, being suspended between realities, between meaning, between having to decide which one is which, because your process, your analytical process, never finishes, right? So then the next, you get the man with the sword. Okay, so how about this guy? You know, maybe he turns slightly towards, yeah, okay, now he's gazing in the other direction. But you could argue that you said, what do I need to do to stop overthinking? Well, you can just decide to take a sharp object and release that hangman from his rope, you know, whatever keeps him hanging there. How about you just a little bit turn towards the hangman and then release him from his pain, you know. The hangman, I mean, I do so he doesn't feel in pain, but I don't know, like how much can you be hanging like that before you expire, as it were? Not for long. So unless somebody comes and rescues that person from hanging there between realities and meanings and in endless analytical processes, you are not going to get any value out of your readings, which the 8 coins emphasizes. So in other words, how can I stop thinking? Well, if you think about how much value there is in being sharp or just being more oriented towards that action. And I'm going to cut through this endless analysis that I'm so good at. I'm simply going to cut myself loose from this grip. And in your case here, it's interesting to see that the card suggests that there is an external agent that has done the hanging to you. So it's not even sure that you and your own mind is pulling the trick or the overthinking, the over-analytical trick on you. There may be some other external agents that bring you to that point where you are forever suspended here and you can't get past of the over-analytical stage. So you see here, if you just make that decision, you said, what can I do, right? What can I do to stop overthinking? Well, quite sometimes if people need a magical action, I say, you know, that's difficult to concretize, to make it more tangible. I would have right by me, or if it's writing, or if it, whatever project you are at, you know, I would have a little knife right next to me, you know, that would remind me, you know, to put a stop to that. And so I'm so gonna just cut this, you know, and then get on with the program. The king of swords is like your general. He's your best strategist friend. He's the tactician, you know. He lays plans and then he goes to war. This is a man of war, you know. So so that he can win. So this is not a guy who is beating about the bushes about what his aim is. So, so if you just activate within yourself that power which you can have, if you just remind yourself of the fact that you can actually stop. You can say, okay, I have been overthinking. Yeah, I have looked now at these cards for at least 30 minutes. Just stop it. Just stop it. And then release yourself. And then say, okay, I'm going to stop it right now, and the next thing that falls into my head will be the answer. And that's it. That's the practice. It's not sure you get it right. I mean, what is right, what is wrong, I don't know. But if you hold yourself to the context of your question, if you remember your question ad verbatim, then I would be surprised if in that moment when you say, I'm done with this, I have been looking at these cards for 30 minutes. In that moment, when you make that decision and say to yourself, the next line I come up with about these 3 cards will be my answer, I will almost stake my head on it that it will also be exactly that which you need to hear. You yourself, can sit and watch a samurai movie, and then you say, I'm having this problem. I need to have some answers, and I'm going to sit here and simply just watch this dumb movie, whether it's education or just pure Hollywood shit. And then if you go into that with this intent that I'm going to get some answers to this, whatever it is that pains me, believe me, and this is the backbone of all divination traditions, you're going to have an answer. So, whether you use cards, whether you divine by Twitter, like whether you go, you have something, and sometimes just out of, I get a kick out of it, just because I like to see what arises, and then it always prompts me into thinking about how I can relate this completely random information to something that's very concrete. Twitter number 10 from the feed stream is going to be my answer. That's a kind of a bibliomantic practice that will answer my particular dream I had last night that I really can't wrap my head around. So you can get very entertained. So my point is that when you do that, it's completely no different than all these other more or less sophisticated, so-called more or less scientific approaches, what we go with astrology, and I don't know, sometimes people think astrology is a science. Astrology is a divinatory art, as is everything else, so it's based on interpretation.
Camelia, she totally ripped into me one time. I put up a spread in a Facebook group. In the West, the teachers have to be supportive, but I feel like in Eastern tradition, teachers are often assholes to their students because that's the only way the students learn. So at your school, the school is called Aradia Academy. Is that how you pronounce it?
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's right.
Yeah. Tell me more about this academy.
It's a play on my hometown. I was born in Arad in Romania, so I called it Aradia. Though, of course, Aradia is also the moon goddess, so I thought, why not? Let's have a little bit of a witchy touch to all this. I tried to create a whole curriculum that is based on offering foundation level courses in the standard decks that we know of, that people enjoy. The Marseille Tarot cards, the Lenormand Oracle, and the playing cards. And each of the foundation courses, they also have an advanced module. Then I have a program it's a one-on-one program in Cards and Zen. And that is that's brutal. That's nasty. That is exactly the kind. And not everybody. Some people, they go all the way. The first module is 18 months, so it's a lot of work. And then not everybody finishes it. But those who finish it, it's like somebody was just saying to me, you are raising a samurai army, and I was like, I am. And then, they said, don't be daft. You know this already. Because I have a love for anything martial arts, so I refer actually on numerous occasions to my style of reading cards as martial arts cartomacy. The idea of just cutting through the damn thing, reading the damn cards, and any other. It's like I don't like the ambiguous. So what interests me is this, is the shit transparent or not? So, and if it is, then it's like there is only one thing you can say, not 10, not 20, not let's keep it on some other level where I'm being polite or I'm being ethical. That's the other thing where I don't get me going. I mean, for me to judge anything, I never judge the question and I never judge, what comes out of the cards. I just want to see things as things are. That is my ambition, and that can hurt. So I have 33 lessons in there that are geared towards making people feel utterly uncomfortable because I simply peel off every single dear thing that people hold to their hearts, and while everybody wants to go with me there when we send every bad person to hell, people are not so readily accepting of the inverse situation where I may say, how about you send your son to hell today?
Wow.
You try that a few times and then you're gonna see what comes out of it. But the whole point is that you make people realize that any form of clinging to anything that appears to the mind, and every time you even a little bit get excited about what you see, get excited even about the ways in which you think this is the path and this is the solution to my thing. Then you pull back and say, hey, what is the premise for this thinking? What I'm trying to get to is realizing what is not the truth. And these are the things that I feel are only there warming our hearts for something like 5 minutes. That to me is inadequate. I want more. I want clarity. I don't just want to be big or a big bad witch. I want to be clear in my head. That's what I want. And that is a completely different world, See, but basically that's what we do in Aradia. Yeah. So we use the cards really with view to simply knocking our habitual thinking off completely. Well, we end up there where we are not excited anymore. I mean, some people say, isn't that boring to just have a continuum? And I'm like, how is having constant peace of mind boring?
The advice that you're giving, and I'm sure it's the advice that you give to your students in your academy as well, especially with the one-on-one stuff, is the cards, they actually don't really matter. It's the clarity of how you see cards, coffee grinds, tea leaves, going on Twitter looking at the 10th message. Like it could be anything. It could be cracks on the sidewalk. It doesn't matter. It starts from here. It starts with the clarity. Without this, it doesn't matter what you use. It's going to be shit if it's not super clear. And I love that message you're giving because most people who are doing tarot, they don't even think that way. They're not even thinking like, let's first consider if we're thinking about things clearly. They're just like, give me the meaning of what the hangman means. Give me the meaning of what the empress means. Give me the meaning of this so that when I lay out the cards, I can just get a lazy version. But you're saying, fuck lazy, because you're not going to get good results if you do like a lazy reading. You have to start from a clear, almost like, I guess like samurai master sort of mind if you want the best results, because you don't need this for the best results. You just need a clear mind, and you could just do it with blades of grass. You could do it with clouds in the sky. It doesn't really matter. It's just divination is actually here in your mind.
Well, divination is here always. As long as you also start out of this premise that there is such a thing as simplifying. There is such a thing as seeing clearly because you make an effort to boil everything down to the one essence that you are able to identify the whole thing is all about. Yeah? So that's why I'm much more interested in running with that discourse that dictates, look at the function of a suit. Where does it come from? Why? What's the logic? How do we get from A to B? Even in this exposition that we have, the story of the 4 suits, So what are all these for? Well, they all stand very simply for a representation of the 4 castes, or the 4, the cardinal points, the south, west, and east, and north. They all stand for stuff that we relate to in our own lives that we can't go through life without, knocking our head against some kind of wall that already contains all of these. I mean, with the cups, we have some wine here. Cheers to you.
Cheers.
So here is the wine, So with the cups or with the hearts, the blood is streaming. So we get all hot in our inside. With the batons, well, we go out and compete a little bit. And then when we are done, we put the sticks somewhere so we can have a fence or we can build a house and we can do something. Yeah? They emphasize some sort of work that we got to do. The spades, well, the function of the spade is simply to just stab. The spades, they inflict pain, and we can talk about physical pain, like try cutting yourself with a knife while you chop your vegetables. You're going to be feeling something that's not so nice. The same for verbal aggression, Sometimes when you say, like, that guy did that work, he was so stabbing, he was saying these nasty things to me. And then the coins, lo and behold, the coins, what do we use them for? Well, we transact with them, right? So they have symbolic monetary value, they have symbolic financial value. We transact with all that. No, I buy something, I sell you something, and so on and so forth. It's all there. So, of course, it's very easy to read with a pack of cards where you can see how these suits, they come to expression. We feel as it were we live. We have the experience of these 4 suits in our lives without ever having to think about it. What is the message that emerges that you can derive from having seen how this essential quality of this card enters into dialogue or play with this other essential quality of this other thing that I know about, whether it's at suit level or number level or other formal properties such as design and color level, whatever. So as long as, you make that kind of reflection or you start contemplating about what the essence of each damn thing is, then, you are there where you can say, well, yeah, exactly. So if it's cards or if it's Twitter or if it's bones or if it's the stars and the moon, the planets, it doesn't matter.
Guys, if you want to comment, what do you feel about tarot and trying to combine that with Zen stuff? Are you the type of person who just needs to know what the cards mean? Or do you think that maybe, it is more about context? It is more about trying to see what the cards are saying to you on that particular day with that particular question. And what are your challenges with that? Because I know I have challenges. So let us know in the comments below. Camelia, thank you so much again for this amazing, next level, super meta, multi-level interview. This was really fascinating. Thank you so much.
Thank you.